Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with my February anticipated releases. So as I mentioned in the first one I did this year, I'm going to try doing these monthly. So far so good. Like, I feel like it's a lot more manageable for me, and I feel like it's probably easier and more enjoyable for you guys to watch since they're shorter. So I'm just going to get right into it. I do want to mention that some of these titles are HarperCollins titles, so I am still going to include them, but if I read those before the strike ends, I will not be reviewing those until later. Like the union has said, they don't want people to boycott these books, to not buy them or not read them, just like hold your reviews until they get a fair contract. Good news is at the time that I'm filming this, HarperCollins has at least agreed to meet with them and start bargaining again. So hopefully the union is able to get what they're asking for, which is basically a survivable wage and a few other very basic concessions as well. Okay, so starting off on February 7th, I have Wild Blood by Lauren Blackwood. By the way, I will do a pinned comment, I think, of all of the books I talk about. And as always, this is a huge variety of things and a huge variety of information that I have. Like, some of these, I'll read you part of the synopsis. Some of these I'm like, I know the vibe, that's it. So anyway, Wildwood by Lauren Blackwood comes out on February 7th. This is a fantasy novel, and our main character is a guide for tourists in this kind of like rainforest or jungle. It just sounds really interesting, and I really enjoyed Within These Wicked Walls, which was Lauren Blackwood's debut. I will link the reading vlog where I read that one, but I thought that was very good, so I'm excited for this. Then also on February 7th, I have Once Upon a Book by Grace Lynn and Kate Messner. Shout out to Ashley at Bookish Realm once again, because I talk all the time. Like, Ashley is wonderful, and if you especially if you have any interest in children's picture books or middle grade or anything like that, you have to follow her and listen to her recommendations, because she's great. And this was on one of her anticipated releases lists, and the only, this is a picture book, and the little line from the synopsis: from Caldecott and Newbury honoree Grace Lynn and best-selling author Kate Messner comes a modern folktale about the joy of reading. I think that sounds wonderful. I've read a nonfiction book by Kate Messner, like a middle grade nonfiction that I really enjoyed, and I really love Grace Lynn. I think she's the illustrator for this one, instead of illustrator and author, but I'm very excited. Then on February 14th is one that I think a lot of people are looking forward to, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, but that is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. I just know this is a dark, atmospheric, romantic, kind of fairy tale inspired story. It's about the danger in believing in fairy tales, and there's it involves betrayal. I think the romance is going to be really interesting. I think there might have been, is there something about sisters or female friends? I don't know. I just think that sounds really interesting, and the cover is gorgeous. And I feel like the US and the UK covers are both gorgeous. Then also on February 14th, I have Revel by Lissa Mia Smith. It says, inspired by Moulin Rouge and set on an island in a magical version of Prohibition-era New York, Revel is a breathtaking YA standalone fantasy full of dazzling magic, romance, and mystery from debut author Lissa Mia Smith. And then another line from the synopsis is, on the island of Charmant, magic flows like bootlegged champagne, and fantasies can be bought for the price of a gemstone. Yeah, I think that sounds interesting. I don't know. We'll see. And then also on February 14th, I have The Scarlet Circus by Jane Yolen. This is a collection of short stories that are fantasy romance, I think, and I think, are they historical as well? I am currently reading another collection by Jane Yolen. I've only read one story from it so far, but I enjoy her writing style. I've read other things by her, and I just feel like this kind of fantasy plus romance is something that I'm gonna really enjoy. Then February 21st, I have Sounds Fake But Okay, an asexual and aromantic perspective on love, relationships, sex, and pretty much anything else by Sarah Costello and Kayla Kashka. That is on February 21st. I don't remember if I said that. This is a nonfiction book that is by these two best friends who have a podcast. I believe one of them is Ace and Arrow, and then the other is Ace and I think biromantic or panromantic. And apparently this is also related to a podcast they do. I've never listened to the podcast. I haven't heard of these writers before, but this sounds like a really fantastic nonfiction book. Here's a quote from that description. Drawing on their personal stories and those of ACE-BEC friends all over the world, prepare to explore your micro-labels, investigate different models of partnership, delve into the intersection of gender norms and compulsory sexuality, and reconsider the meaning of sex when allosexual attraction is out of the equation, spending the whole range of relationships we have in our lives, to family, friends, lovers, society, our gender, and ourselves. This book asks you to let your imagination roam and think again what human connection really is. I think all of that sounds super interesting, and as you can tell by the description, it's obviously going to talk a lot about how like what romantic relationships can look like, but also just like other kinds of relationships and how like sex obsessed our society is and how things change when you kind of let go of that. So I think that sounds really interesting. Then also on February 21st, I have The Enchanted Life of Valentina Mejia by Alexandra Alessandri. And this one Ashley also mentioned, but I think I had first heard of it from Belle at Belle's middle grade library on Goodreads. She reads a ton of middle grade, and I get a lot of like underhyped like recommendations from her. Like she reads middle grade titles that I have never heard of before, which is exciting. So this is where I first heard of this one, and the cover is beautiful and the description of this one just sounds fantastic. It says Encanto meets the Chronicles of Narnia by way of Colombian folklore in this middle grade fantasy adventure. It's about our main character, who is a young girl, and her and her younger brother kind of get dragged along with their dad because I guess he like investigates like legends and stories, which the kids have never really believed in or gotten into. And when he hears about a sighting of one, he kind of takes them with him. And then I think something happens where maybe he like disappears or gets kidnapped or is in danger somehow. And then our main character and her younger brother kind of get pulled into this like alternate version of the world where all of those legends are true. Yeah, I just think that sounds great. Also on February 21st, I have Nocturne by Alyssa Weiss. I am really excited but nervous for this one. So this is a historical fantasy set in 1930s Chicago, and our main character is Italian. I don't remember, I don't know if like her family immigrated. I think she's a first generation Italian American, so like her family came over from Italy. It's set in Little Sicily in Chicago, and she dreams of being a ballerina. That's what she's really passionate about, and she does become a prima ballerina. She kind of sees this as her ticket out of poverty, and she is succeeding and doing really well, but there's like this mysterious patron. I am nervous. I have been burned by so many like ballet fantasies or like ballet retellings, several of them very recently, so I'm tentatively hopeful, but we'll see. And I find the 1930s an interesting historical time period, and I'm also drawn to stories about like Italian immigrants, and yeah, I just think that's very interesting. That's part of my family background, so I think this one sounds really good. I hope it is. And then on February 28th, I have Marvelous by Molly Greeley. This is a historical book with a strong romance element, and it's based on a true story. Like the male lead is a character based on the person who inspired the Beauty and the Beast story. Like the Beast, there was a man who did have this condition where he had like a lot more hair all over than most people do, and of course people did not respond well to that, and so he wasn't like treated very well because of that, and he was kind of viewed as a curiosity, and then he ended up, I think it was like an arranged marriage between him and this young woman, and they actually did end up having a love match, so I think all of that is like a true story, and this book is like inspired by that. I think it sounds really interesting and really good. I have really loved The Clergyman's Wife by Molly Greeley, and then I enjoyed The Heiress. I didn't love it, but I liked it. And I just think this one sounds really, really interesting. It's kind of like, I guess it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's almost like an origin story instead of a retelling. So you guys know I am still trash for Beauty and the Beast, and I just think this sounds like the historical aspect of this one, the fact that it's based on a true story, also interests me. And then finally, the last book I have to talk to you about also comes out on February 28th, and that is It's Boba Time for Pearl Lee by Nicole Chen. This is one I just heard about today from Ashley's anticipated releases video. That I watched it today, and this sounds fantastic. This is like immediately, I think, one of my most anticipated releases. So this is also got a beautiful cover, as Ashley pointed out. So we are following our main character, Pearl Lee, and she's really excited to just spend the summer like hanging out with her friends, working on her amigurumi like crochet. I hope I'm saying that right. I do knitting and not crochet, so I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. So she's excited to work on those, hang out with her friends, and go to their favorite boba shop. And then it looks like the boba shop is in trouble and it's going to be closing down, and she really wants to help save it. She's also very close to the owner, so she wants like to do as much as she can to help save it, and she decides that she's going to sell her amigurumi that she makes. And all of that already sounds great, but then it says, the synopsis also talks about like the dangers or the pitfalls of commercializing your passion or your hobby, and that is something I've been thinking a lot about, and I just think I'm gonna really love that. I love that we have a middle grade book that's talking about that. I also love books that incorporate crafting. Yeah, I can't wait for this one. Definitely one of my most anticipated releases. So those were my February anticipated releases. Let me know if you are excited about any of these. Let me know a book you're looking forward to in February. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!